Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Bases Loaded right here on OTF. I'm your host, Blake Munroe, where I'm joined each and every week by Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel. And guys, we got a lot to talk about today, but I want to rewind a little bit because it was such a big series win last weekend against the then-ranked number 2 LSU, who is now 5-ish in a lot of the polls, or 5 to 8-ish, I guess you could say. But your thoughts on that? Let's backtrack a little.
Well, I thought it was a great series win, first and foremost, to come away with that after falling in game one. I mean, to bounce back Saturday and Sunday, really, really impressive pitching performance as well on Sunday. I thought, hey, if this is a lineup that you're able to subdue for 2 games in a row for the most part, right, and I thought Saturday more showed a lot of resilience from this Texas squad, right? There are several opportunities for LSU to kind of break this game open, and yet Texas kept it close and fought, and then eventually ended up with the lead and closed the door. I know that's been a big, maybe not concern, but a big area of notice for me is, do you have the arms in the back end, especially on a Sunday in series play, to close out leads? And what we saw with Volantis and Riojas, I couldn't be more pleased with that performance. So Texas, again, that's a big series win. I know that you kind of stumbled in the midweek. You lose a pretty big on Friday and then come out with the series win. I mean, it just solidifies what we all hoped we knew about this team, and that's there for real.
Yeah. I the Sunday performance by Ruger Riojas was freaking outstanding. I mean, to make your first start at the dish in a Sunday game, a rubber match against LSU when you need a series win, and for him to do what he did, he was great. Dylan Volantis was lights out during the series. I just like the fact that kind of what we've seen from this team where, even if they get down, they'll have answers. I just like the fact that they kept fighting back and kept coming back and really took LSU's best shot and ended up winning the series. So, the crowd was awesome. I mean, I've talked about just how much I've been looking forward to some of these environments in the SEC. I mean, that Saturday night game, it felt like it was a super regional. Like, it was a really, really big deal. So it was a great series. Great to see Texas get the W. And, I think, offensively, your experienced hitters are leading the way. And, from a pitching standpoint, I just continue to marvel at how these guys have bought into what Max Wiener has been preaching since he got to Texas last summer, which is dominate the zone. I mean, guys talk about that, but these guys are living it. And, talking to, a guy like Luke Harrison, he said, hey, it really helps him refocus on and make it kind of a pitch by pitch deal. Take it inning by inning, pitch by pitch, where you want to dominate the zone. Let that last pitch kind of, it doesn't matter. Just focus on dominating the strike zone with your next pitch. So the mental game we know was going to be huge with Schloss. It is. And I think you saw a little bit of that pay off in the LSU series, but man, just a great weekend of baseball. And I love where this team is at right now.
I'm with y'all on that all the way. And as we do each and every week, guys, let's take a look here at, after that win, what Texas is ranked in the polls. Baseball America all the way up to 3. So they thought very highly of that win. Perfect Game at 5. It's odd not seeing Perfect Game being the highest one on the horns as we've seen all season. And then not unanimous, but USA Today, D1 Baseball, and the NCBWA all agree with Texas at number 7. So continuing to rise, but it's going to get a lot tougher. I mean, yes, Missouri this weekend, but then you look at Georgia, you have Kentucky, Auburn, then A&M, of course, Arkansas, Florida. But, those are all teams, with the exception of A&M and Missouri, that are top 25-ish teams, depending on what polls you look at, in the very near future.
I like how Blake's just shoveling dirt on the Aggies. Like, still got a bunch of conference left to play, but Blake's got that shovel and he's just piling the dirt on. Now, look, I'll keep it real simple. I said last week, look, you're getting to the point where you're in the top 25 and you're going to have the RPI is going to be in your favor when the dust settles. And that LSU series was going to tell us if we can really start thinking that this team has a chance to compete for a top 8 seed. I'm not saying Texas is going to be a top 8, but that they can realistically compete for one. I think we got our answer last weekend.
Yeah, and we talked about it on a live stream earlier this week, Jeff, whether or not this was a must sweep series for Texas. You could argue it's not, but I'm sitting here saying with what you have left ahead, I definitely think you need to come away with all 3 victories. And again, it's not an easy thing to do, right? Sweeping a road SEC series, not easy, regardless of who you're playing, right? Whether it be a Kentucky, a Missouri, or Texas A&M, right? That's not easy. There's a little bit more dirt on the shovel there, Blake. But point being, when you start looking ahead at who Texas has remaining in conference play, this is a series that they have to take care of business with and continue to build that RPI, continue to build that resume. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Texas squad we see, whether it be that momentum that we saw carry over from LSU or a team that may struggle out of the boat and then fight back and claw like we saw Saturday afternoon.
I think I look at this Baseball America top 25 guys, and I think we can all agree after watching them last weekend, LSU's good enough to go win a national championship. They're by this ranking, they're the 5th best team in the conference.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
if you just need to be reinforced on how dominant, how deep, how good the SEC is, that should give you a pretty good indicator right there.
Yeah. This morning we were asked, and we didn't answer the question because we just didn't have time, but we were asked on Coffee and Football, what's the most competitive sport right now in the SEC? And you look at this, the entire top 5 SEC, 8 of the top 10 SEC. And I don't see how the answer can't be baseball based off these rankings right now. And 12 of the top 25. And you got a whole bunch of teams just sitting, or not a whole bunch, but a couple of teams just sitting right outside of that top 25 range. I mean, it's insane, the depth of this conference.
Yeah, Schloss called it the minor leagues of college baseball. So there you have it.
Yeah, softball might have something to say about that, Blake. But I think even when you look at softball, until proven otherwise, college softball, it's Oklahoma and everybody else, right? Patty Gasso's got a dynasty going in Norman. But, we've seen all these teams look vulnerable at the top in baseball. We've seen all of them, look dominant at times. So to me, Tennessee's number 1 right now. There's still, to me, no clear cut like, LSU was 2 years ago or Tennessee last year. I don't see that just dominant team that's, going to be it's them versus the field once you get to the NCAA tournament. I mean, like I said, LSU's 5th in the country right now, which in turn they're 5th in the conference. That LSU team's capable of going to win a national championship, in my opinion. So it's as deep and as balanced as maybe the SEC's ever been, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, that is. Okay, before we move on, fellas, I need to tell everyone out there about one of our sponsors today, and Chinook Seedery. Be sure to go check them out in your favorite store, or you can go online, chinookseedery.com. Guys, it's the best sunflower seed out there. In my opinion, I love it. I mean, I've tried every flavor that they have with all 8 flavors, and I haven't found a bad one out of the entire bunch. I love me some lemon pepper, but they're all great. And whether you're watching the ball game on the couch or maybe you're playing the game or just watching in person, you need to get you a bag of Chinook. Again, chinookseedery.com, or check them out in your favorite store. And CJ, you talked about it a little bit, but let's look at Missouri. Of course, they're 9-14, and over in conference play. But Texas is going to travel up to Columbia this weekend. So the game starts today of the series. But what do you guys want to see? And CJ, I know, again, you said a sweep, which I do think is important based on what Texas has coming up, like you said. But what do y'all want to see Texas accomplish this weekend?
I want the brooms out. No, but seriously, I want to see the bottom end of that lineup get going, right? A Tommy Farmer or Will Gasparino. We saw Gasparino on Tuesday hit one, 440 almost to the tennis court. So if that's kind of the Gasparino that you can get moving forward, and I'm not saying hitting a ball to the moon essentially every at bat, but a guy that can, find an alley, find a ball down the line, just kind of help out that bottom of the lineup, which has gotten a little stagnant. I'm not going to say it's completely dull, but when you start looking at some of these numbers up at the top with Ethan Mendoza, Max Ballou, Jalen Flores, I'd like to see them get some more ABs with guys on base or advantageous positions. So let's see what that bottom half of the lineup can do against Missouri, and maybe that'll spark something moving forward. But that's the number one thing that I've got. Because look, we've talked about pitching, and right now I feel pretty comfortable with who they've got trotting out there, especially if Jason Flores, is going to continue to pitch the way that he is out of the pen.
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited about, is how the pitching staff sets up, because you got through the Tuesday game. I mean, thankful for run rules. You only needed to use Cade Bing and Jason Flores in a 7-inning game. So for the weekend, you didn't have to use Riojas or Duplantier or Volantis to get that Tuesday win over Sam. So you're sitting, I mean, if you're Max Wiener, you can pretty much do whatever you want at this point. I would like to see Jared Spencer have a little bit of a bounce back. It was solid start. I wouldn't say it was a great start for him last Friday against LSU. And we'll see what they do with the Sunday roll. But I really hope, I mean, you guys know we talked about in the preseason, I was all on the Will Gasparino train, and I'm still on it. I may be by myself at this point. I'm still on it. Will, that ball had a family that you tanked in left field the other night. And had it not been for the trees, that thing would have been on the tennis courts. I mean, that's about as smoked as you'll see a baseball get smoked at the college level. So hopefully this gets Will Gasparino going.
I like it. Hey, what if I told y'all that out of the last 5 meetings between Texas and Missouri, Texas has won 0?
No kidding.
Yeah.
How far back does that date, Blake?
Well, they last played, I believe, what was it, Jeff? When did they leave the Big 12? Was it 2013?
The 2012 season would have been Mizzou's last season in the Big 12, yeah.
So that would have been the last time they met. But yeah,
well, they played a couple times though. I think it was either maybe last year. I know.
Oh yeah,
been one of the tournaments in Houston where they've played against each other. But yeah, other than that, it's been few and far between since Mizzou left the Big 12.
You're right. I just looked it up. February 18th, 2023, and Missouri won that one 6-5.
Thanks for reminding me about that weekend in the Astros Classic, Blake, where Texas went over. I appreciate you reminding me of that.
Oh man, good stuff. All right. Well, I can almost not guarantee, but I would like to think that Texas doesn't go 0-3 this weekend to add on to Missouri's streak. So I feel pretty good about their chances there. Well, this next topic I want to bring up is, and we talked about the Sunday starter last weekend. We were talking about how to expect a TBA, TBD, whatever, every Sunday, or not every Sunday, but, for the foreseeable future, that's what you're going to see when it comes to the Sunday starter. And Schloss was actually asked if maybe we could see Riojas fulfill that role. And I want to play y'all his answer here.
1,000,000% if I thought about it. I mean, I would love to be able to write it in pen and just leave it right there. And maybe we get to a point in the season where we can do that. I think a guy like Jason Flores is capable of maybe jumping in that role where Ruger and Max as a reliever. But right now, I don't think we're there yet in my mind. So when we have a chance to win the games, then we'll use Ruger if we need to. Otherwise, he or Max, both of them could start on Sundays.
And a big thank you to Ann Parker Coleman for credit to her for that clip. But I want to get y'all's thoughts on that.
It's interesting for me because I think, and Luke Harrison and Jared Spencer are the only two guys on his pitching staff right now that have defined roles. One's a Friday guy, one's a Saturday guy. I think at this point, everything's still up for grabs. My hope is that, Cade Bing can emerge as a 3 or 4 starter. Hey, I know we talked about Blake going into the year that Riojas could be in that Evan Aschenbeck role, like Schloss and Max Winter used him at A&M last year. Look, it may just be that they need him to start. I think the opposite is true for Volantis. I know they want him to start, and Schloss has talked about this, but he's too valuable right now as a guy that can get you the last 3 to 6 outs of a game that they need him in the bullpen right now. So probably not where they want Riojas, but if he ends up starting on Sunday and getting a win, he might just be that guy.
Yeah, I'm up for whatever experimentation they try with Ruger Riojas. Again, you start looking at some of the numbers for Jason Flores, Max Grubbs, Dylan Volantis. I mean, to all have sub-2 ERAs at this point in the season, I think you trust whenever you trot them out there. Question is, can either of them, can any of them, can all of them give you 6+ on a given Sunday, which is kind of what we've seen, Texas toe the line with Jared Spencer and a Luke Harrison so far. So I think that starts the train. Obviously, what do you get out of Friday and Saturday on the mound to start a series? But all of this is going to pay off in my eyes when it comes to regional time and tournament time. To have these arms, whether it be to start a game, to whether it be come out of a bullpen, because you never know when you might need an arm on a whim. And right now, all four of those guys that we mentioned, plus an Andre Duplantier, I mean, I trust those guys quite a bit. And that's really encouraging because I think that was one of the big question marks coming into the season. We're starting to see some answers really quickly.
This is my opinion. And again, there's people watching this that have, forgotten more college baseball than I know. I think the regional tournament's the toughest tournament to go win, especially if you get in the losers bracket, because you really, to get through a regional, you need at the very least 3 starters that you trust, and you probably need 4. I think a super regional, if you've got 2 frontline guys, you may not even need the 3rd game to get to Omaha. And then once you get to Omaha, dude, everybody's pitching on fumes by that point anyway. So it's just a battle of attrition once you get to Omaha, unless you got, the Skeens or Will Bednar, if you got one of those legitimate bona fide studs. And Texas had that in 2021, by the way, with Ty Madden. Unless you got one of those guys, everybody's just trying to piece it together at that point. So, look, kind of my worst case scenario, fellas, is you can get quality starts more often than not from Spencer and Harrison. If you can get that and minimize your bullpen usage, you can kind of just piece it together on Sunday. And look, maybe you don't need Ruger Riojas to go 6. Maybe your bullpen's good enough to where, hey, he just needs to give you 3.
Right.
And then you can just kind of go inning by inning from there. So a lot of options. That's kind of the fun with this thing right now, though, is we get to see how all this plays out. Obviously, you'd like somebody to be established as a 3, but I'm cool. The more pitching you can develop, the better off you're going to be in the long run. CJ, I'm with you 100% on that.
Well, and we did know going into it that they were going to tinker, that they were going to play around. I didn't know it would go as far as the Sunday starter, this far into the season at the beginning of conference play, I guess. But it's kind of hard to argue with the result, fellas.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Hey, it's better to be 5-1 in the league than 0-6 right now. So.
There's that shuffle.
I will say this, though, CJ, what were we talking about going? Missouri's 119, I think you said, in the RPI. It's triple digits. I forget what the exact number is, but this is a weekend where obviously you want to sweep, but in terms of the RPI, if you do lose, it's much better to lose on the road than at home. I'm not saying Schloss should plan on, hey, let's just, forget this Saturday game and pack it in, try to win the series on Sunday. But if you do happen to stub your toe, it's better to stub it on the road because it's not going to ding you as much in the RPI as it would if you lost at home.
That's a great point. That is a great point. Before we get to our last thing to talk about, I want to tell everyone out there about Tackle Addict. And if you're an avid fisherman who's always searching for the right supplies, then do yourself a favor and check out tackleaddict.com. It's owned and operated by former Longhorn Brian Robeson and former Longhorn baseball great Brandon Belt. Tackle Addict has everything you need for the best in today's fishing equipment. And Tackle Addict is for the everyday fisherman and serious pros alike. Get their products shipped to you directly from the shores of Lake Sam Rayburn. That's Tackle Addict, ADDICT.com. And Brian and Brandon say hook 'em. Okay, one thing that we're asked about a lot, guys, is upgrades. And everyone wants to know about Dish Falk and upgrades and, when we'll see certain things. And so Schloss was actually asked about turf and grass. And I want to play y'all his answer to that real quick.
So, yes, the turf needs replaced and the field needs leveled, it's going to add some expense to it. So we're going to need to take the turf off, level the field, and then put new turf or grass. I know that's a big, I'm not going to commit to one or the other just yet, but whatever we do, if we do turf field, then we're going to have to do something. You have to do something to the warning track so the outfielders know where they are. And this is a tough field to play that way.
Yeah, what brought that on was in the Friday game against LSU. Tommy Farmer's going back towards, and we know that there's that short wall in left field where the visiting bullpen is. There's no differentiation in terms of the field between the green turf and the warning track. So apparently Tommy Farmer later told Schloss, is like, I thought I was just running the ball down. Well, he ran full speed into the wall. That could have been really, really bad, but it wasn't. I asked Schloss, my follow-up was, okay, so if you go turf, do you want dirt on the base pass and on the warning track? And he said, no, we're going to do turf on all of it. He said that creates all kinds of maintenance problems. If you have dirt on the base pass, you still have to have a tarp anyway, so you might as well just go natural grass. So it's either going to be all grass and dirt or all turf. It's not going to be one of the combo deals. Like I think Tech has that. I know East Carolina has that where there's grass in the outfield, but it's a turf infield. So yeah, a little bit. We'll see what happens. What I didn't think about though, guys, I'd never thought about this is, Schloss was talking about the crown and needing to level the field. That's back when the park was built back in 75. You had the old AstroTurf and you had the crown in the middle of the field so the rainwater could run off. Apparently they never leveled the field. So yeah, so that's going to add some expense to it. So that's why you can't just, let's take up the turf and add grass. Like, no, whatever you're going to do, Schloss wants that field leveled. So David Pierce, I know, had a really big hand in altering some things with the outfield dimensions and the turf, but Schloss is right. That turf, I think, got replaced in 2018, and it's about getting to a time to where they're going to need to do something. So it'll probably be maybe in 2026 we see something new.
All right. Well, either way, I think it'll finally make everyone happy, because I know there's a question that happens that gets asked all the time, guys. Is when are we going to see upgrades? when are we getting away from the turf? Blah, 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 blah. So maybe that may create more questions for now, but eventually you should have your answer in the near future.
Yeah, hopefully so.
I think, look, if they go grass, the first rain delay, I think CJ has to, turn it into a slip and slide. The first big rain delay at Dish Falk. So that's what I'm voting for.
I'm in. I've done it before. It's a fun time out there.
I mean, hell, I might be in there with you. So
I will.
Blake, Colt Munroe would be down for the slip and slide. Yes.
Oh, 100%. He's kind of hoping for not, because we played today, obviously, for some rainy conditions. So they do their antics on the delay, but we'll see. I'm
sensing at Dish Falk a father-son belly slide for distance contest on the tarp.
I just know I would smoke him. No doubt about it. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Bases Loaded. We want to thank our sponsors, Tackle Addict and Chinook Seedery. And, of course, thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week. So for Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel, I'm Blake Munroe, and we'll see you then.